waiting to put a ticket on my car. Like, they think they real slick. You're gonna be evicted. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is so funny because this is the first time doing just like a sit down talking video. Yeah, it's been a while since I've done one of these, but in this video I just wanted to talk about the reason why I moved out of my first apartment. I had lived there for 2 years. I moved into that apartment in February of 2022, and it is now March 2024, and I just ended my lease last month, February. So a full 2 years living on my own. And I just want to go through why I'm moving out and what were some of the pros and cons of living on my own. So let's get into it. So we'll briefly start with why I decided to get my own place and live on my own in the first place. I actually had another video that I'll try to put, I don't know, either side of here, where you can get more in-depth reasons why I moved out. The audio is a little low, so you may have to turn it up a bit, but for the most part it was pretty much just for more space. I was pretty much living out of a bedroom, and also to not have to, you know, accommodate for others or have others accommodate for me when you live in a space with multiple people. So for example, I could just go in the kitchen and start cooking. I didn't have to wait for anybody, or if I wanted to spend however much time that I wanted in the bathroom, I didn't have to worry about someone else needing to use it because it was just me there. So, you know, that kind of convenience. And lastly, it was pretty much just to have like a journey of growing and learning. But yeah, those were some of the gist of why I ended up getting my own apartment. So now let's talk about why I am now moving out. So one of the reasons is to save more money, basically. I was living pretty comfortably. Even though I was living comfortably, it's nice to be able to save even more money instead of putting that money towards rent. If you have the opportunity to not have to, it's nice. So during that time when I was living on my own, I was probably saving about between $300 to $400 a month, which was not bad. I was able to save up for vacation when we went to Barbados, and I'll put that video here too. But there's still a chunk of the money that you're earning that's going to rent, and if I could save that chunk of money, that's priceless. So another reason besides being able to just save more money and put more money in my savings account is the job market. I do work in the IT industry, so that's kind of been taking a bit of a hit. I work in HR, so I'm not an IT person myself, but I work in an industry that's based around it. And we've seen the changes that have been happening economically within the business. We've had a lot of like terminations. We've had a lot of restructuring and, you know, a couple of layoffs. Coming towards the end of my 2 year, my lease coming up, and having the opportunity to not have to continue to pay that rent, I definitely was like, I don't know exactly where I'm going to be at when it comes to work in the job market, and you just never know. So I was like, it's probably safer to take that opportunity to move out. And one of the last things was being closer to family. When I first moved out, in order to find something that was affordable, I did kind of have to move a couple towns over where it was more cost effective, cost friendly, which took me further away from where most of the brunt of my family is. We would usually hang out like every weekend or so it was a little bit of a hassle to have to drive all the way back like 40 minutes to where I live, and then have to get up and go to work the next morning. So it's nice to live closer, so when we have those nights, I could just come right to the next town over. So it's just much more convenient in that sense. And also, obviously, living with my boyfriend right now is just also convenient because now we're just right there. It makes things easier because we're right there. Alright, so now let's get into the pros and cons of living on my own for the past 2 years. Let's start with the cons and then we'll finish out with the pros. So let's start. So one con I would say is the parking. The parking situation. So basically it was like a city. It was considered a city where I lived in that apartment, and the parking was like equivalent of like 4 blocks up the street from where my actual building was. So that was a bit of a hassle. like I just mentioned, coming home from a weekend at the cousin's house and then having to park the car, and now it's like midnight at this point, and then having to walk from the parking lot to literally like 4 to 5 blocks to my actual apartment was so annoying. Like honestly, if I forgot something in my car, I wasn't going back to it until next weekend, because I literally only drove my car like once a week because I would take the train to get to work since I do work in the city. So yeah, if I left something in the car, I'm gonna just have to get it next weekend, because I'm not about to walk another 4 blocks to my car to walk another 4 blocks back. No, we're not doing that. On top of that, they love to try to give parking tickets. Like whenever the month would turn, because it was a monthly pass, and I swear it was like 11:59 the day before the next month would start. They were literally sitting there waiting to put a ticket on my car. And even though I would buy the pass and maybe it just didn't register in the system by the time they came around to slap a ticket on my car, but like, really? So in order to dispute the ticket, I would have to go up to the municipal. Luckily, it was like right around the corner, so I would just take a walk there, and then I had to put in a dispute for it. But they made sure it wasn't convenient because they were only open from working hours. So you would literally have to take off of work in order to dispute a ticket, and then risk losing money from work if you don't have PTO days. So you're probably losing more money taking the day off of work than just paying the ticket anyway. Like, they think they real slick. So I'm glad I don't have to worry about parking anymore. Another con, most of your money goes to rent. So I guess it's a con if you're really trying to save up a certain amount of money. Although it was nice to know that I was able to afford my rent each month. It was like a little win. But it's even more of a win, I guess, if you could put it in a savings account too. So if you have the opportunity. So, and lastly, having to take out the trash. And I don't know, it seems so minuscule, and I didn't realize this was something that was an inconvenience for me as much until living on my own. But yeah, it's nice to have someone that you live with to just take out that trash. So those are the cons. Now let's get positive and go into the pros. So one of the pros is, like I mentioned in the beginning, why I moved out was having more space. The studio that I lived in was surprisingly bigger than what I would envision most studios are. There were 2 closets in the main room. Then there was a coat closet. Then there was just a storage closet across from the bathroom. And then there was a full pantry, another closet just for food. So there were literally 5 closets in that studio apartment. So it was pretty spacious. Since I live on my own, I didn't have to accommodate others, like I mentioned before. So I would literally take the longest baths and not have to worry about anybody knocking on the door needing to use the bathroom. I could take all the time in the world. And just having the space to just be an introvert, you know, just being able to come home from work and just having that peace that I create for myself in my own space, and nobody in there to jeopardize that peace, you know, because it's just me, and that's kind of where I unwind from the workday. And it was just nice to have that space just to myself, just to unwind, regain my energy. If you're an introvert, if you know, you know. And lastly, a pro was opportunity to learn and grow, mostly when it comes to like budgeting. And I'm gonna jump right into that. What are the things that I learned living on my own? So one of the things is just responsibility. You know, you got rent to pay now. If not, you're gonna be evicted. So it definitely taught me more responsibility, just to make sure the rent was paid and the utilities were paid, and also budgeting to make sure I allocate the amount of money that I need for those things, and just prioritizing those budgets. So that was a great learning experience for me. Another thing that I learned is city parking be a scam. Now I'm just being like malicious, but yeah, it's a scam, like I said. So yeah, the main thing I learned was responsibility with money and prioritizing and budgeting. I'm just gonna kind of end the video off in talking about where I currently am now. So now, as I mentioned, now I'm living with my boyfriend. It's almost like an equivalent to a studio, but it's also attached to like a family home, so you really don't have to pay that much in rent. There's a grateful opportunity in that sense. But just to compare kind of the reasons why I initially moved out of my first place into the apartment, to now moving here and seeing if I still have some of the same luxuries of why I moved out in the first place. So in terms of having more space here, I would say I do have more space than when I lived in just like the bedroom before moving out into my own apartment, but I don't have more space going from my apartment to here. There is a little less space, but there is space kind of like in the other side of the basement where I can kind of store things, but there's not a lot of like closets to like have it very organized basically. The accommodation for others, I feel like I still have this here because we do have like a separate like bathroom where it's just me and him that we use. And then there's a kitchenette that's down here too, so just me and him use that as well. I don't really run into any issues with having to use these facilities because it's just me and him there. It's not like waiting for someone for the kitchen to be free in order to use it here. It's literally right there. I can use it whenever. The only thing is there's not a bathtub. I guess you could say that's the one like con. And then the one other con I would say is it takes longer to get to work, so my commute is longer from here than it was at my apartment. So yeah, and I also made a video on my 2-hour commute to work, so if you guys want to check that out, I'll have it up there as well. Yeah guys, those are the reasons why I moved out. Those are some of the pros and cons. If you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.